Right, let's go live to Munich, where Evangelo Sipsas is following up proceedings for us. Evangelo, thank you for joining us. Plenty to unpack from this conference in Munich, especially the relationship between the US and Europe. The Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has just also addressed the conference. What more can you tell us about his speech?
Well, so far it is the second day, and it's quite early to say in the day. And right now, as we speak, there has been a lot that has said here in the Munich Security Conference. Now, Wang Yi, as you mentioned, took the stage, and he took the opportunity to promote Beijing as a pro-actor in dialogue. He mentioned that China is here to sit down and have a more constructive dialogue with its partners from Europe, but also the United States, and that they should more focus mostly on having conversations rather than confrontations. He mentioned also that right now we're living in an era that is different than the past. We have evolved from that cold era, and we need to do things differently. We cannot have rivalries and major rivalries anymore. We need to sit down and discuss our differences and discuss how we can overcome these problems. He urged Washington to be more proactive when it comes to dialogue, to be able to sit down and find a common ground to be able to overcome the issues between the two sides when it comes to terrorists, but also when it comes to national interests. He also touched upon the conflict in Ukraine. He mentioned that China is ready to take a more proactive role when it comes to discussing the end of the conflict in Ukraine. He said that also Europe should be the one part of these discussions. Europe should be also on the table when it comes to ending the conflict, because it is in Europe's backdoor, as you mentioned. It is a full day. He did mention a lot in the speech. The note that pretty much came out from Wang Yi was that we need more dialogue, that the world has changed, and we need to evolve ourselves and have a more positive way of how we deal with confrontations.
Right, and Evangelo, do bring us up to speed on who's been addressing the conference and what key issues are emerging there, as well as what you're expecting today.
Well, we did hear from Marco Rubio, the top diplomat of the United States. He did mention that he pushed back actually on those headlines saying that the U.S. and Europe are in a rift, that they're on opposite sides. He said that the U.S. and Europe are closer. They need to become closer, and that through NATO, both of them can be able to become stronger. They need a better understanding of each other, and they need to promote dialogue between the two sides. He said that we're not rivals, we are allies, and we need to make that stronger than before. Also, Rubio did mention on China that also we have different interests around the world, but we need to sit down and find a common ground because we're the two largest economies, and anything that these two countries do will affect the rest of the world. We also heard from the Ursula von der Leyen, the head of the European Commission. She did mention that now is the time for Europe to stand up for itself, to be able to promote its own security and its own defense. We also heard, though, from the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who did mention that if it's necessary, we will have to defend our people and fight for our people and defend them in all costs, he mentioned specifically. He did, though, also mention that now is also the time to spend more on defense and more on the transatlantic organization. That's why he did mention that a fleet of the UK military will be heading to the North Atlantic later this year. So a lot so far has been taking place, and even more to come in the next few hours here at the Munich Security Conference.